Welcome into Up in the Rafters, a podcast brought to you this basketball season by our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. Co-hosting this, I'm Taylor Vippolis, and this year I'm joined by national champion, the most outstanding player of the Final Four, and a Carolina basketball legend, the ACC Network's Joel Berry. Joel, the last time we talked, we were talking about the Clemson loss. Carolina bounces back, winning on the road against Miami. They win 75-72. A lot closer than the game should have been down the stretch, with Carolina able to hold on. But what did you kind of take away in this bounce back performance from Carolina?
Yeah, I thought obviously bouncing back from a loss is always ideal. So getting a win, especially on the road, was huge for them. It looked like it was getting ready to be a blowout. Honestly, I was getting ready to get comfortable, say let's move on to the next game, and here comes Miami. But that's who Miami is. They're a good team. They've been battling injuries all season. Haven't had consistent lineups, which can be a challenge in itself. But they fought back and took the lead at one point. But I just thought the poise that Carolina showed in being able to continue to attack and particularly in the second half, and we'll get more into it. But I thought they did a really good job with the adjustments and taking away some of the guys that were really hot in the first half. So overall, I thought it was a well played game. I thought Elliot really stepped up in a big way for Carolina. And then in the second half, getting Armando Bacot established, but really picking up the defensive intensity and putting a stop to a team that we all know can get hot at any moment. But they limited them and they were able to get the win. I wish they would have scored some more. Carolina would have scored some more baskets in the late in the game, but they were able to still get it done. So just a really poised and mature win.
With this North Carolina team, on one hand, this game in Miami kind of highlighted it, where they are able to build these double digit leads. In the first half, they're up by 12. Miami gets all the way back to where Miami is winning at halftime. Second half, another similar thing where they build this lead, and then it's a 2-point game before we know it. They do build a lot of double digit leads, and they deserve a lot of credit for that, but they also struggle to maintain those leads.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the poise, and they close out these games more often than not when you look at their final record. So how do you kind of balance that this team builds a lot of big leads, they lose a lot of big leads, but they're also winning at the end of the game?
Yeah, I just feel like that's part of the game sometimes. But usually when you're losing the lead, there are a couple of factors. One is just you kind of lose your principles. You start doing things that are different than what has given you success. So I think that's part of the reason. And then two, I just thought that they allowed Miami to get comfortable. And sometimes when you have your foot on the gas, you got to keep it on the gas. And you have to know that teams will make runs, but you have to allow the team to beat you, make tough shots, and not just necessarily beat yourselves. And I think that's what they tend to do at times. Just by playing fast and trying to keep the foot on the gas, and sometimes those turnovers end up happening, bad passes like the one where they tried to throw an entry pass to Armando, and it was just like, where was the pass going? I don't know, but it's just like those little moments. You have to continue to stay locked in, and you have to continue to keep pressing and do the things consistently throughout the game that has given you success. And I just thought that they got away from it a little bit, and that's what caused and allowed Miami to come back in some of those moments.
Those head scratching moments when you have these 18 to 22-year olds, it's why we love college sports. I was talking to somebody during the college football season, and you get the same like plays that make you scratch your head in college football. And somebody I was talking to was like, "Oh, that's why I like the NFL. Like, it's a lot better of a product." I'm like, dude, sometimes you need the drama.
Yeah, you do. That's what adds to it. I mean, it's part of the game. Now, I don't know whoever said that, but I've seen in some pro games, and I'm like, what's going on? Especially when I'm watching NBA, And I'm just like, do you even consider that defense? I mean, that's why guys are scoring. That's why teams are scoring 152 points. But I don't know about that one. I think sports in general, I think that's why we love it, because sometimes, the game is so complex and the game is so hard and there's so many different factors to it that you kind of have to. It's like you have to be on one side of the spectrum sometimes to kind of make those adjustments and get it just right. But I feel like throughout all sports, you got these bonehead plays that just make you laugh and like, what is going on? And that's what I was doing at that moment. I was like, who did they see down there?
Yeah, that was kind of highlighted when Carolina doesn't score a field goal the last 407, and they have gone through some stretches like that this season where they can't buy a basket in these bad offensive stretches. But talking about the defense, Miami shoots 47% in the first half. They shoot 37% in the second half. They shoot 2 of 14 from 3 in the second half. So Carolina's 3-point defense was on point. You had Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier combined for 34 points the first half, where Pack is a bit similar to RJ Davis, where he's going to make a lot of these tough shots, and when he gets in a rhythm, it's like kind of watch out. And then you have somebody like Omier who just bullies his way through everybody with the strength he plays with. 34 points combined in the first half. They get held to 6 points combined the second half, shooting 2 of 13. In a large part, why Carolina was able to build that lead up so quickly is how they defended those two in the second half. What did you see from a schematic standpoint on what Carolina was doing different to kind of take those guys out of their rhythm?
Yeah, the one play that comes in my mind and is the one where they the ball screen defense. Sometimes you can play that drop coverage, and it does give a lot of wide open opportunities, especially for a guy like Pack. So you think, like you said, Pack is a lot like RJ, where off the bounce they're really good. Now, off the bounce is not your highest percentage shot, but there are a lot of guys like Nigel Pack and RJ Davis who can knock down shots coming off the dribble. So if you think Armando is in the drop coverage, now you're allowing Pack to just come off the screen wide open and for a pull-up jumper. And you can't do that. And Miami is in like I think they're in the 90th percentile in shots off the dribble. So you want to be able to put them in situations where they're not having those off the dribble, especially Nigel Pack, because he can be so good. So what did Carolina do in the second half? They blitzed the screen, or they did a harder show on Nigel Pack to not allow him to come off and see much, see green grass in front of him and put bodies in front of him. He's still a shorter player. So if you have Armando being up high, being with a big body, long arms, being active, that disrupts his rhythm and makes him get out of rhythm. And then you saw what he did. He threw the ball right to Elliot Cadeau for the little man's layup. So that's what they did in the second half and really affected Nigel Pack in particular. And then I thought Armando wore down Norchad on the offensive end, because they kept feeding him the ball, and they were allowing Armando to play one-on-one. And eventually, I know Norchad is a really strong dude, but eventually those legs wear out, and having to go up against somebody who has 5 inches on you, it can be tough. And I just thought he wore Norchad out in the second half, and it really affected him on the offensive end.
Yeah, we talk about Miami was a bit banged up in that game. They were down a starter. We'll talk about Carolina's lack of depth that was kind of noticeable in this game in a bit, but Miami's I thought was pretty glaring. It's pretty obvious that behind Omier that
it's tough.
they don't have anybody.
Yeah, after Omier, man, it's almost like coach like, man, if somebody's 6'11" in the crowd, I'll come give you a jersey and get out there. We just need size right now. I mean, Norchad is already undersized, and then all of a sudden you have to go to your bench and you got to rely on a freshman going up against Armando, and there's no chance. You might as well just stick it out with Norchad, have him dog tired. He's going to give you more than what the freshman would against somebody like Bacot. But yeah, like to your point, it was very, very noticeable that they are struggling and facing a challenge right now with the lack of depth.
Let's talk about that matchup with Bacot right here, where we've talked about how Carolina has kind of gone more through RJ Davis this season and less playing that outside in. But this Miami team, undersized, undermanned, no Keyshawn George this game. That's the starter I was referring to earlier.
Yeah.
But we've talked about how they go more through RJ Davis, but Hubert Davis has kind of been vocal saying, like, we're still a team that wants to play a lot through Armando Bacot, and for us to get to our potential, we're going to need Armando Bacot to be at that All-American type level. He has 3 field goal attempts in the first half, so that doesn't really show that type of need to play through him. But Carolina gets Omier in foul trouble in the second half. They play more of that outside in game or the inside out game with Bacot. He kind of gets going, finishes with 10 points, 15 rebounds. What did you see from him in this game, and just Carolina's want to play that inside out type of style?
Yeah, I thought what Coach Davis said about bringing Armando into the office and telling him, like, no, we need you to be a dude. Like, we need you to be the Armando Bacot that we know you can be, dominating, demanding the ball down low, and using that skill and that ability that he has. And I love that because they do need him. They will need him. Look, every game presents something different. And obviously, we know we just don't. Carolina just doesn't want to force feed it down to Armando Bacot. Obviously, he has to have an opportunity. But I just think that, like, anytime his numbers are showing in the half court, get it down to him, because I really do like him. Even if he's, a step or two off the block, I think that little spin move down on the baseline helps. And then you just think about the amount of tension, not helps, but is effective. But think about the amount of attention that Armando gets on him. I mean, it opens up other opportunities for guys cutting on the backside, or they double team. Now you get a chance to play from an advantage. And I thought that's what they did in the second half. Like, Norchad obviously is a big physical guy, but he's still, still giving up quite a bit, a few inches on to Armando. So you're able to get him the ball and let him go to work. So I do think they need to continue to play through him. Now, like I said, don't force feed it. But anytime you see his numbers or he has an opportunity to score the ball, get it to him. And I was talking with Boozer, and I was like, Booze, like, even if you just look Armando's way, like Norchad Omier, you get him in foul trouble. Like, you can get other bigs in foul trouble just by looking down there, because you have to work so hard as a big to just try to get around Armando. And so now you have to foul him, and then all of a sudden that compounds. They got to bring somebody in off the bench, which Miami didn't have anybody, and now you give a chance for Armando to get himself going. So I just think even just taking a look down there, you don't have to play through him, but at least give him a look, reward him for what he's doing. And you just never know. Every game presents something a little bit different.
We talked earlier about loving the unpredictability that comes with college basketball and college sports in general. But one of the things it feels like you can count on every game with this North Carolina team, RJ Davis, he's going to be a bucket. He's most likely going to lead the team in scoring. He does it again, going for 25 points. It's his 8th time this season going for 25 plus points. What did you see from RJ? Because it feels like an every game occurrence, and it's a very weird split for how he did it. 1 of 8 from 2, and then 5 of 11 from 3.
I mean, look, RJ is just playing at a really good rhythm. The game is coming to him so easily right now. I know we look at the 25 points and the 5 for 11 from the 3-point line. But you think about the two categories. Free throws, he's 8 for 8. So what does that mean? He's being aggressive, getting to the basket, putting pressure on the defense, not settling. I mean, he shot 11 threes, which is a lot of threes, but he at least made 5 of them. So that's good. But being able to put pressure on the defense and get downhill and get some of those easy baskets at the free throw line is helps his team. And as a shooter, sometimes you just need to get to the free throw line just to see a couple go in, and sometimes that can get you going. But the one thing that I think stood out more than anything is his assists and then his defense. And I'll start with his assists. He had 5 assists, so just having the opportunity, putting his teammates in positions to score. He had a kick out to Elliot for a 3. He had a kick ahead to Harrison Ingram for a 3. Just being able to get his teammates involved. And that helped his game, because now the defense has to stay honest, and now he can get busy like he did in the first half and the second half. But and then defensively, to take on guarding Nigel Pack. I mean, he stepped up defensively. Has to guard a lot of good guards here in the ACC, but Nigel Pack is one of them. And I thought he did really well on that end. So it was just all around just a very complete game for RJ. His attentiveness to get his teammates involved and just playing at really good paces on all 3 levels was just it was a complete game.
Yeah, 11 3 attempts is a lot, but then you're shooting at 45%. It's like, hey, can we get maybe those 11 attempts to 17, 18? He's got the green light.
He does. That boy got an ultra green light. I mean, no thoughts about it.
And I thought it was also interesting. You mentioned his defense, and I thought he did a good job finishing possessions too, with 7 rebounds, second on the team.
Look at little man in there. I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah. a great rebounder for his size.
Yeah, he is. I mean, to be second in rebounding as a 5'11", maybe 6 foot on a good day guard, man, that's how you do it, man.
And then you mentioned him in this last one of those kickouts that RJ had on a drive. Elliot Cadeau makes his first 3 in ACC play. He makes his second 3 not too long after. He goes, I believe, 2 of 6 from 3, where teams are at least maybe going to have to start respecting him, because right now they're not respecting him. They're just sagging off, waiting for him to drive. He's killing them on the drive still, 7 of 14 from the field. He goes for 19 points, 8 assists, 4 steals, 5 turnovers. What did you see from Cadeau in this game and his performance that got Carolina this win?
5 turnovers, got to get those down, but he made up for those with his shot making ability in this game. It seemed to me that the emphasis was on and I'm speculating, but just if I'm a coach and I'm in Coach Davis' shoes, we can't have him on the floor and have someone treating him like Rondo just by sitting in the paint, because that clogs up the paint. That doesn't allow driving opportunities. And, then that doesn't allow opportunities for Armando to potentially play one-on-one, because now they can bring a hard help. So you don't want to have that. You want him to be effective on the court. So I'm thinking that Coach Davis was like, hey, man, look, we got to have you shooting the shots. Like we have to keep the defense honest, because if not, then, he is a phenomenal passer. He can get the ball moving, but now you got an extra defender that's just hanging off and not playing him honestly. So I think just having him being able to knock down some shots, even if it's not a lot, but enough to keep the defense honest, and for them to go into each game and say, okay, he's capable. Because when I think, like, I've had plenty of coaches say, no, don't worry about him. Let him shoot. And then a dude come out there and hit 3 or 4 threes. It's just like, Coach, I thought you said he couldn't shoot. Well, I didn't say he couldn't shoot. He's just not good at shooting. And so I just think for him to be able to have at least that type of attention is what they need just to keep everything open. And I thought he shot the thing like it was a late shot clock type of shot. He was just stepping right into it and just shooting, and that's what they need him to do.
I've heard one narrative from the fan base that has kind of made me laugh with regards to Elliot Cadeau, where they're like, man, if Cadeau could shoot, this North Carolina team is very dangerous next year. And I was like, man, if Cadeau could shoot, he will not be back in Chapel Hill next year.
Y'all will not see him in Chapel. Y'all will not see him on Franklin Street. You will not see him in the quad. He will enter his name in the draft, and he is long gone.
I was like, if he could, dude, that's the only thing the NFL, the NBA draft guys are knocking him for right now, because the way he creates for others and the way he gets downhill and attacks, I mean, it is special. And yeah, he had the 5 turnovers, but a lot of those is just his aggressiveness and trying to create for this North Carolina team, especially in those times when they do go through.
Yeah, I'm just nitpicking at this point.
Yeah. And when you're talking about, I'm curious if you've ever played with a teammate or had a teammate who was in a similar situation, because you talk about getting the scouting report and being like, oh, this guy can't shoot. If you're that player and the person is so far off you, that has to feel borderline disrespectful. Not even borderline.
It's very disrespectful, like on another level. I mean, the one player that I think about is Theo. Just because he has the same playmaking ability that Elliot has and can really see the floor. And there were times where we were just like, look, if someone is disrespecting you, like you shoot these shots and we shoot these shots when we're just messing around the gym, like when there's no one in front of you. Like that's how disrespectful it is. I mean, it's like like you're just shooting practice shots. And so, like, not saying that you got to shoot it every single time, but at least 1 or 2, because you just never know. It might go in, and then all of a sudden, now the player is like, okay, he might be capable of knocking something down the next time. And then now he respects you. Now you can go into your dribble handoffs. You can start playmaking and doing everything that you want to do. But it is disrespectful. And I'm sure that was a point of emphasis. Emphasis is that they need Elliot Cadeau to be able to keep the defense honest. And the jump shot doesn't look bad. No. It was a little straight line towards the basket, but just get a little lift on it and shoot it with confidence. They need that from him.
Quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You could go to johnnytshirt.com and get all the Carolina apparel you could possibly need. With basketball season in full swing, they've got the hats, the jerseys, the T-shirts, you name it. They've got it. Great people, great customer service. They are always running the best sales around there. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers also save 10% off their orders. Joel, I thought when I was at the Miami game, one thing that has kind of been noticeable, especially with Seth Trimble out, is the lack of bench production that North Carolina is getting. They get only 1 point from the bench. Some of the players look like they might be regressing. Jalen Washington really hasn't looked as good. Jalen Withers minutes are going down. Seth Trimble is still out. What have you seen from Carolina's bench? Maybe like the last 2 games since Seth has been out, and how much of a concern would you say that's going to be for this team moving forward?
Yeah, you just get into a rhythm. And sometimes you get into a rhythm with being able to play certain lineups, and sometimes just having one guy out can, throw a wrench in your game plan. So, and that can have an effect on other guys as well. And so I think that that could be a small piece of it. Another piece of the pie could be, as you get closer to the end of the season, some of those minutes start the coaches start cutting down the minutes, and they start figuring out who they want on the court majority of the time. And that could be another factor. And that could be why Jalen Withers hasn't seen the floor much. It's not saying that he won't, because you never know what happens from game to game. Somebody gets in foul trouble. You don't want anybody getting injured, but it's the nature of the game that happens. So you just never know. But just having Seth Trimble out does have an effect, and I think that defensively, having him out of the game really impacts them, just because he's a guy that you can tell him, oh, we need some energy. Go pick up 94 feet on the best player, wear him out. And sometimes that gets everything going. That gets the team going. It permeates throughout the team. And so sometimes that can have an effect on you. But I think that, it could be they need him back. But, as far as the other players, it could be a just, shortening the roster a little bit as we move closer to the NCAA tournament.
Before we wrap up, a big shout out to our friends at Congruity. Congruity is a North Carolina-based national coverage, local presence company with personal support straight from the Tar Heel State. Congruity is empowering small and mid-sized business owners with HR and payroll outsourcing, enabling you to grow your business while they take care of your greatest assets, your people. And they are doing it with top-of-the-line technology and services for every stage of your business's growth with a state-of-the-art online platform. Congruity, they are obsessed with customer service where they become part of your team. They do the heavy lifting, providing essential admin support with a single point of contact and support available on demand with services that are tailor-made for you, transforming your organization. Congruity has helped hundreds of businesses improve and enhance their day-to-day lives, level up your HR capabilities, save money, unlock game-changing growth. Visit congruityhr.com/Tar Heels to learn all about Congruity. Fill out a quick form to be connected to their consultants, and they'll give Inside Carolina listeners or viewers a payroll and HR assessment for free. That's congruityhr.com/Tar Heels, congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. All right, back to the episode. Looking at this team, big picture and moving forward, you look at their overall record. They're 19-5. They're top in the ACC at 11-2. If I were to tell you, knowing how hard it is to win in the NCAA tournament, knowing how hard it is to win the ACC tournament, if I were to tell you this UNC team loses in one of those tournaments, what do you think the most likely reason is?
I think it could be the guys outside of the main guys. In my eyes, RJ, Armando, even Harrison, but really Armando and RJ. I think every team has its stars. Every team has its guys that do the most production. But I really do think when it comes down to having an NCAA team or a national championship team, you got to have guys that are outside of your 2 or 3 that do the most production. You got to have those guys playing on another level, basically. And so I think that if they have any problem, is RJ having a bad game and not hitting some of those shots, because we've talked about it here too, that some of those field goals can be up there. And so he gets into, trying to score more, and then those shots accumulate, and then now everyone's standing around watching him. I think that could be one of the reasons why they end up getting knocked out of either the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament, is him having a bad game and then not getting enough production from those guys outside of him.
2 games for Carolina this week coming up. It's going to be Tuesday, 7 p.m. tip-off in Syracuse against Syracuse, and then this Saturday, February 17th on the ACC Network against Virginia Tech in Chapel Hill. Joel, man, appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Yes, sir.